Hey, everybody. Welcome to Vikings Report Rewind. I'm your humble host, Ted Glover. With me are our usual gang of suspects. My co-host on Vikings Report, Drew and Ted, the lovable and affable Drew Bunting, and the founder, lead blogger, and numero uno poobah over at the SB Nation Minnesota Vikings site, the Daily Norseman, Christopher Gates. Gentlemen, Vikings win a wild one, 28-24. Give me a minute to collect myself.
How the hell do you break a game down like this? I mean,
we're gonna try.
Oh, I don't even
forget breaking the game down. I nearly broke down 2 or 3 times. It was that was something.
I'm not even sure where to begin.
Let's begin by thanking Dan Campbell, because that guy fucked that game up. That guy did. He had like 4 calls that were
First of all,
Dan Campbell.
Go ahead,
Dan
Chris.
Campbell is the guy. Dan Campbell is the guy who hits on blackjack when he's holding 16 and the dealer has an ace showing.
Am I wrong? That guy botched a bunch of calls.
He sure did.
Thank you, Dan Campbell.
You know, I'm trying to pull up the feed right here to get our good friends online to see who's listening and see who's watching.
Yeah, you know what, Ted? To explain this one, we need some help from the folks today. We need some help in the chat. Thank you for joining us on this live show. But I told Ruby about a half an hour ago. I told Toonses, once we dial it up, tell the chat room we need your help because I cannot figure this team out, Chris Gates. I cannot.
I got nothing.
See?
Seriously, I got nothing.
All right,
we need the people in the chat, Ted, to help us today.
We do. First of all, thank you for joining us. Again, Vikings won an absolutely wild game, a game they were losing up until the very minute they actually pulled it out and won. I don't think they led the entire game until Osborne's go-ahead touchdown. Am I wrong?
They
trailed the entire game.
They got it to a tie at halftime, and then Detroit went back ahead 17-14, and no, the Vikings didn't lead until the last minute.
Ted, not only did they trail the whole game, that shit looked bleak about the fourth quarter. It looked like
it did.
It felt like to me we have no shot, guys.
It was an absolutely bonkers game. The best we can do, I think, is start from the beginning. I don't know how else to do this. Let's just go chronologically.
Well, before we start, let's give a shout out to Mike Hughes.
Yeah. First of all,
showing the form that the Vikings used to trade his ass to Kansas City with a couple years ago. God, he got roasted on that catch, didn't he?
Yeah.
Mike Hughes got fried more than the turkeys I do at Christmas time at a deep fryer.
He was baked, man. More than Drew in the '80s with John Matusak. But yeah, let's try to break it down. But I can't promise. I don't have a lot of info. I don't know how they won this game. But yeah, let's start from the beginning.
Again, so this was a thing for me the latter years of the Mike Zimmer era, and we've talked about this, and it was a thing again this week.
Right.
The Vikings came out listless. The Lions jump out to a big early lead, and the Vikings were completely out of sync on both offense and defense. And I don't know about you, gentlemen, but I, for one, am sick of it. I don't get these slow starts. I don't understand them. I can understand one unit maybe struggling a little bit. I can't understand the entire team coming out flat. And I talk amongst yourself, because I'm just too irritated to even discuss that rationally.
I'll throw out a couple numbers and I'll kick it over to Christopher Gates. Against the Eagles, I think they had 160 yards in the first quarter and we had 10.
Mm-hmm.
This week, they had 143 yards in the first quarter and we had 40. That's 2 weeks in a row where we're just taking a big dump early on. And you can't take big dumps in the NFL and win a lot of games. I don't know what's going on early, but Ted, one time, coincidence, all that stuff, Chris, the slow starts are irritating.
It really is. I mean, and it's weird because until the first, 2.5 games, or the second half of the Packers game, the second half of the Eagles game, and the third quarter of this game against the Lions, they scored a total of 6 points. It came on 2 Greg Joseph field goals against Green Bay. They had no second half points against Philadelphia. And I don't know what the heck was going on. I mean, if you'd have told me going into this game that when the game was over, Justin Jefferson was going to have 3 catches for 14 yards, I would ask y'all how many points the Vikings lost this game by.
Yeah. So real quick, before we go any further, we've got 250 people watching. Again, thank you so much for joining us, for watching.
Are they in shock too? Are they in shock, Ted?
Well, I haven't really been able to tell yet. We are going to give away a prize to be eligible to enter to win the prize. All you have to do is put a comment in our live chat. Say, "Hi, School Vikings. What the hell was Dan Campbell thinking?" Whatever your comment is, put it in there. You're entered to win. Ruby's got it. Ruby's keeping track of everybody who's talking and chatting and interacting. At the end of the show, we'll draw. We've got the Toonces Wheel of Destiny, or whatever it is. And we'll determine who the prize winner is. So that said,
Ted, what's with the slow starts, Ted?
I don't get it. The Vikings kind of dodged a bullet because the Lions came out, got the ball first, had some big chunk plays, missed a field goal. The Vikings came back. They missed a field goal. It was like dueling bad kickers today. Neither Joseph or whoever the hell the Lions kicker is could make a kick unless it was an extra point. And that turned out to be very fortunate for the Vikings. But let's talk about another thing, because after that first set of missed field goals, both teams,
right.
A pattern developed in this game, and it was a third down that would convert to a 4th and short. The Vikings would stop the Lions on 3rd and 4, 3rd and 5, make it 4th and 1, 4th and 2. And credit to Dan Campbell, he played to win this football game. They didn't until the very end.
He didn't play well enough.
He played dumb at the end, but for like 59 minutes, 58 minutes, they played to win. And the Vikings could not get off the field on 3rd and 4th down. And this is the same thing against the Eagles last week, and it's starting to become a thing now.
You want to hear an absolutely insane number from this
I do.
game?
We like insanity, Ted and I.
the Detroit Lions had 16 third downs in this game. They converted 3. They converted more fourth downs.
How the hell were they in the game if they only converted 3 first downs out of 16?
They were 3 out of 16 on third down.
What were they on fourth down? Because I bet they were like 5 or 6 or 6 or 7.
I don't have that stat in front of me. It's not in the thing here, but yeah, they have the third down numbers. They were 3 out of 16.
At one point, they were 4. At one point early in the second half, they were 4 out of 5 on fourth down conversion.
Yeah, they got their first 3 and then they missed one and then they got another one. So they were 4 out of 5. And I can't remember what it was after that, but yeah.
I kind of disagree that Dan Campbell played to win the game.
Okay, elaborate. Why is that?
You're up 14-7. You have all the momentum. You're up 14-7. You're at your own 48-yard line. It's 4th and 2. You punt the ball. That is really dumb. That's not playing to win the game. That's playing to let the other team back in the game. That was one of the dumbest things I've ever seen. 99 out of 100 coaches are punting that ball there because the Lions are still playing, still have the momentum at 14-7. They give the ball back to the Vikings at the 48-yard. Who does that? And then he did that fourth down play on the drive before they tried the field goal.
Mm-hmm.
He ran that. You kick it there. Why? What is he?
Yeah.
He kicked the ball there. That's not playing to win. And by the way, that last field goal, Ted, that looked like it was in a monsoon because that shit was flying everywhere that Siebert kicked. That looked like a hurricane field goal. But I think Dan Campbell made some calls. You might want to say, well, it's ballsy to go out there. And it is most of the time, some of the time. But a lot of times making judgments like that, you put your team. He lost that game for the Lions. He lost it.
I would say those kicks facing the open end of the stadium where the doors were open, every single one of them went wider right than Rush Limbaugh. That's all I'm going to say on that. I mean, my God.
Nice.
It was like a boomerang throw. Every single one. Joseph's kicks.
Just because you're going for it on fourth down doesn't mean you're playing to win. That guy made some terrible decisions today, and it led to the Vikings winning the game. It did.
You're right. That's a good point you bring up because the Vikings held on 4th and 2. Instead of kicking it, would have pinned the Vikes deep. The Vikings offense to that point, they had scored the drive previously, had gone 11 plays, 80 yards. But other than that drive, they had been fairly discombobulated their first 2 drives.
Frustrating, Ted.
The Vikings get the ball back, and they had a 4th and 6 themselves, and they were in their own territory. I want to say like the 35 or 36. And they made it and ended up going down and scoring. But the play before that, Kirk overthrew a wide open KJ Osborne. That would have been an easy touchdown.
Yes,
but they regrouped, converted that 4th down. I think Thielen made that catch right at the first down marker. Vikes go down, score a touchdown, and it's I said this. I tweeted this out at halftime. For the Vikings had played about as poorly as they could, other than maybe that Philly game. They did not play very well at all. The defense was off. The offense was off. And somehow, going into the locker room, the Vikings had managed to get the game tied up going 14-14. And they had the ball coming out to start the second half. And I thought, well, okay, put that first half behind them. Let's go out and get a nice drive to start the third quarter, maybe go up 17-14, 21-14. And what do the Vikings do, Chris?
Yeah, you didn't say let's go 3 and out because that's exactly what the Vikings did on that first possession. That was bad. I mean, I don't. This team has so much talent. There are times where they look so good, and there are times where they just look so terrible. I don't know how much of this is on a new coaching staff or what the hell the deal is, but I mean, it's just weird to me.
It is weird. It's weird to the point where it's hard to break down because sometimes Cousins looks like Joe Montana, and other times he looks like Hannah Montana. He looks terrible.
He looks like Joe Montana.
I don't know. I think we can talk about it as the show goes on. I know we're breaking it down play by play, but I'd like to get your guys' take on what the hell's wrong with Cousins. He doesn't look right, but I don't want to do that now. I want to leave it up with Ted, the direction Ted's going with this thing about.
Let me write that down.
How the game flow went. But Yeah, the last thing before I came in this room, I told Ruby, I go, we look like gangbusters for 2 drives, and then the other 2 drives, we look terrible. Maybe every team does that, and I just don't notice. I don't know. Some of those drives are horrible, Chris. Just terrible play calls.
They really are. I mean, I've got a theory on why Cousins looks like he's having issues, but we'll go into some of that later on.
If I could, gentlemen, let's crack a victory beer. Can you hear this?
Yeah, let's do
There
it.
we go. All right.
Let's do it, everybody.
Okay. So yeah, raise a glass, Chris, with a Dr. Pepper, but whatever. Okay. So the Vikings go 3 and out. The Lions come down, get a field goal. They're up 17-14. At that point in the game, there was 4:45 left in the third quarter. DeAndre Swift had only had 4 carries at that point, and Amon-Ra St. Brown had only had 4 catches. Both those guys were hobbled all afternoon with injuries, and the Vikings still. And when I looked at this game, when we were previewing it, Drew, I kind of thought if the Vikings could somehow limit DeAndre Swift and Amon-Ra St. Brown doing damage, the Vikings would be in very good shape because those guys are very good. I think there is good a running back wide receiver tandem in the game today.
I agree.
I mean, this is no disrespect to those two.
I agree 100%.
But the guys behind those guys aren't guys you fear.
Not at all.
Like Adam Thielen or KJ Osborne or whoever. And so I thought if you'd have told me with Chris, you had that stat, if Justin Jefferson only had a couple catches or whatever, if you'd have told me with 4:45 left in the third quarter, DeAndre Swift only had 4 carries and Amon-Ra St. Brown only had 4 catches, I would have thought the Vikings would have been in pretty good shape.
Sure.
Yet they're losing, and Jared Goff can make no mistakes. He's finding guys like TJ Hawkinson, Chark. He's finding, and the Lions are just moving the ball at will. And I was kind of concerned at this point. Did you guys think this was going to be a winnable game at that point, down 17-14?
I think I was under the impression it was winnable until until that Jamal Williams touchdown late in the third quarter that made it 24-14.
Yeah.
That's when I started thinking we're done.
Yep.
Yeah, I thought we were cooked at that point because we were. I didn't think it was winnable at that point.
Let's go back to the beginning of that drive where Williams scored and made it 24-14. The Vikings had a 4th down. Greg Joseph had badly missed a 56-yard field goal earlier. The defense was doing nothing encouraging to make you think they could stop the Lions on a short field.
Right.
Yet Kevin O'Connell trots Greg Joseph out for yet another 56-yard field goal, and Joseph pulls it wide right again. And now, once again, the Vikings have set the Lions up on a short field, already down 3 points. And my thought is why? Why would you do that? Why would you not kick it? Because it would be harder for the Lions to go 90 yards and score or 80 yards than 55. And maybe they couldn't stop them from maybe they could keep them out of the end zone, but at least hold them to a field goal. And 2014 is a lot better than 24-14 at that point, in my humble opinion.
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, I don't know why we need to stop pretending the 56-yard field goal should be a regular occurrence. If you're Kevin O'Connell, I mean, he hit the one. He hit the one from 56 against Green Bay, but there's a reason that the Vikings team record for the longest field goal is 56 yards. It's because it's freaking rare to pull that off.
You're putting your defense in a bad spot when you miss those.
Really are, because when you kick a 56-yard field goal, like you said, you're essentially giving the other team the ball at midfield, and you can't defend from midfield every freaking game and expect to win football games. You can't do it.
Now, this is where I thought the game was over. So Williams goes in, and the Lions just went right down the field. The Vikings had absolutely no defense on that. The Vikings' next possession, Dalvin Cook not only fumbles and Detroit recovers, but he gets hurt and misses the rest of the game. And
fumbles from running into his own player.
Right.
He ran into Ezra Cleveland. He didn't get hit by anyone from Detroit. He just coughed it up.
This is where I kind of thought that it might have been dark days for the Vikings, but I will say this. Watching the Lions' first 2 games or highlights of the first 2 games, they really haven't done a very good job of putting people away.
No.
The first week they were down big and they had a big comeback, but last week against Washington, they had a big lead, and I mean the Commanders were never. I mean they were never really out of it until the last few minutes of the game. So I thought if the Vikings could hold the Lions when it was 24-14 after the Cook injury, they might have a shot, and they did. They forced Detroit to punt, and I thought that was possibly a turning point in the game. Go ahead, Drew.
Why is that, Ted?
Why is what, buddy?
The last 2 weeks, the Lions giving up those leads. That's Dan Campbell. I'm telling you, dude, that guy is not coach of the year. That guy is not the guy.
Okay.
He made kneecaps, all that, hard knocks, may seem fine. That's all fine and motivating, and I'm going to street fight and all that. But when it comes to X's and O's, that guy's ass. I'm telling you, he's a turd. He's a turd. That's why they blew those leads in the first 2 weeks, and it's going to be the undoing of him. But I just wanted to interject that because Dan Campbell seems like the coach favorite for everybody. Loves that guy. That guy lost the game today for the Lions. He lost the game.
I think that has a lot to do with, and I don't want to sound like old man yelling at cloud or anything like that at this point, but it's kind of the shift. It's kind of the shift toward, what do the numbers say? What do the charts say? What does whatever say? I mean, sometimes the obvious answer is the correct answer. If the obvious answer is to kick the damn ball away, kick the damn ball away. I mean, why? Why would you go for it? Like, I don't know how many times they went for it on fourth down overall, but it was a lot. And
don't get me wrong, I'm happy he did.
Because
sure.
I mean, it wasn't that long ago that you didn't see stuff like that. I mean, I don't understand it, and I hope Kevin O'Connell doesn't eventually get into that.
Telling you guys,
boat, but
don't buy into all the Dan Campbell stuff because I'm telling you, that guy's not a very good coach when it comes to making in-game decisions. He's not.
To your credit, Drew, you said you thought Dan Campbell and the Lions were paper tigers for the most part.
Oh, they kind of proved me wrong. I mean, they hung in the whole game, but they imploded themselves. They can't lose that game. The Lions had that game, Ted. They had that game. They had it, and they blew it.
They absolutely did. You're absolutely right.
They punt it here. They punt it here. They go for a field goal here. They win the game. It's just it. I know the Lion. They play to win the game. It's sometimes you got to make good football sense. Ryan Day is going to punt that ball at 14-7. He is.
Well, yeah, he is. You're right. He is. But it was 24-14. And then Cook got hurt. God, and then the Vikings after the punt, they got the ball back, and that's Kirk got sacked, and it was like a 3rd and 19. And they had to kick again. It just didn't seem like the Vikings were going to be able to overcome the comedy of errors.
Something?
Yeah, go ahead.
About that situation.
Yep.
This is what Drew's talking about because the Cousins got sacked on that play, and it wound up being like 3rd and 18 or something like that. And they hit a screen pass to Madison that wound up being like 4th and 3. And the Vikings punted it away, and Kevin O'Connell got his ass booed out of the stadium for that.
He did.
It was the right call. The punt was
would have gone for it there.
Yes, Chris Gates. That's exactly right.
And it wound up being the right call.
That's what I'm talking about. That's exactly what I'm talking about. The punt was the right call. The fans wanted to go for it. If you listen to the fans, pretty soon you're sitting with them. That's the right call in that situation. Well done, Chris Gates. You are exactly right. That was the right call. Who cares? I mean, they're booing and shit, but you got to punt the ball there. If you go for it, you're just doing a Dan Campbell. That's what I'm going to call it from now on. Doing a Dan Campbell because that guy. That's a good point.
So you guys were good with the punt there.
You know what kind of bugged me at 24-14 to start the fourth quarter? And I told Toonsis this. I wanted to remember to tell you guys. We came back from commercial. It's 24-14. Detroit seems like they're getting a grip on this game. They're getting a good handle on this game.
Yes.
We're down by 10. We come back from commercial. Vikings set up in the eye. First play, hand off to Madison, and he falls in the middle for a 1-yard gain.
Yes.
And then they huddle up. And I'm thinking, run it in the middle and then huddle up. Where's the urgency?
There was none.
irritated me. God, what are you doing? You're down by 10. You're just like, and I wrote that in my notes, and I wanted to bring it up with you guys thinking, does that seem weird to me? What are you doing?
I thought for a while Kevin O'Connell, to be honest, didn't know what to do. And I could kind of put that on him being a first-time head coach or something. I'm not sure. Through 3 games, there have been some things that have been very encouraging for me about Kevin O'Connell. There have been some things that have kind of concerned me. But for the most part, I'm okay with what he has done, if that makes sense.
I'm not going to bag on O'Connell. He's new. He's learning as he goes. There's growing pains. But at some point, you got to go. You got to pick up the pace. No huddle. Let's go. Coming out, 14:45 left. We're down by 10. Let's pick up the pace. Let's run some no huddle. They run Madison in the middle, and then they huddle. And it's like it tells all the fans that I don't know what it tells the fans, but you're down by 10, dude. And you're not playing well. You're not playing well. You need to spark the team. The offense is missing a spark.
I thought he did at to begin the third quarter, the fourth quarter. One of the drives, he started off no huddle to change the tempo, and I think that helped change the Vikings offense. They started to move the ball a little bit. But yeah, for the most part, they were just out of sync all day, and it was really aggravating and irritating. But I'll tell you what. So let's talk about. No, that's good. Let's talk about the end of this game because the Vikings were down 24-14. They took a sack. Here's you talk about Dan Campbell coaching decisions.
What a fool! That guy's an idiot.
Here's one. The Vikings had a 3rd and 6. The Lions were on the field. Vikings defense had a 3rd and 6. Kendricks was called for a holding. Lions got a first down. They had a 3rd and 1. And right. Instead of and there's like maybe 5 or 6 minutes left at this point in the game. The Lions have been running the ball for chunks the entire game. You would think a run to get a first down here might have very much iced the game because they could have burned a few more minutes off the clock, whatever. They call a play, it's a pass, and instead of even a short pass over the middle, get 3-4 yards first down, Goff goes deep, and it was a low percentage pass. It was on the sideline. I can't remember. I think it was Patrick Peterson, but I can't remember on the coverage.
It was Patrick Peterson that broke that.
Had it well covered. It was and the Lions kicked, and I'm like, oh, well, okay, all right, fine. I'm okay, cool. And that's when I tweeted. I think that's when I tweeted out, "Hey, look, the Lions have been unable to put teams away."
Sure.
And this is when the comeback started. Madison, the Vikings had a nice drive. Madison goes down, scores a touchdown. And then the Lions
run by Matty. Great run.
Tremendous
hell of a run.
That was a tremendous run. And now, the Vikings defense, which we have bagged on all day, we have bagged on them all day, had another. It was like 3rd and 8. Lions get 7 yards. It's 4th and 1, and the Vikings defense comes up huge, holds the Lions. I think they lost a couple yards on a run. Yep. And then the Vikings get the ball, and it looks like, all right, this is where they pay Kirk Cousins all the money.
Sure.
And they turn the ball over on downs. I'm all pissed off. I'm thinking the game's over. Go ahead, Drew.
What was with that 3rd down and 8, that lofting pass to Thielen had no chance at? Why would you call that play? That was. I don't know. I just want to throw that in there. I get mad a lot during the games, don't I? But yeah, it felt like, oh man, we blew that felt like our last opportunity, Ted.
It did. And then the Lions go down, and then they miss another. I think this was their 56-yard field goal miss.
The Hurricane field goal, man.
54, I think it was.
The thing was going everywhere. It started out center, went left, went right.
Yeah, looked like a knuckleball.
Come on, it
looked like a good cutter.
Friggin'.
So the Vikings get the ball. There's like 1:10 left. They have no timeouts. They're down 24-21. 3 plays, 56 yards later, 2 28-yard catches by KJ Osborne. The Vikings are in the end zone, and they win the game 28-24. The NFL is wild, man. That's all I can say.
The Vikings are like having the girlfriend who she stays out all night and you're angry. She didn't come home. And then she shows up in the morning with 2 pizzas, a keg of beer, and a new Camaro. And then you go, all right, I'll give it another week. I'm really angry, but I'm going to give it another week. That's kind of what it feels like to me. I mean, what a great drive at the end and what a great pass. And that's what leads me to ask Chris Gates, why don't they do that all the time? Why do we see that Cousins only certain times? It's like, it's hard to break down because he looks like shit so many other times, and then he comes through.
Here's my theory on Cousins, and stay with me on this.
Okay.
You remember back in 2004 when Mike Tice was coaching the Vikings and he instituted the Randy ratio, where like so many of the targets needed to go to Randy Moss, and they needed. You have to imagine in this offense that Justin Jefferson is the first read on damn near every play. And when teams do to him what the Lions did to him today and what Philly did to him last week, you need to move on from that first read as quick as possible if Jefferson isn't going to be there. So I mean, we spent all offseason talking about how Justin Jefferson was going to play the so-called Cooper Kupp role in the Vikings offense, and Cooper Kupp won the receiving triple crown last year with the receptions and receiving yardage and touchdowns. And I don't know what percentage of the plays in the Vikings new offense that have Justin Jefferson as the first read, but if teams scheme to take Justin Jefferson away, you need to be able to make that adjustment. I don't know if it's because of the new offensive system, but I don't know if Cousins is making that adjustment quickly enough. That's my theory as to what it is. I mean, if you're looking for the same guy as your first read every time, and you have to come off of him almost immediately in a game like this one,
sure,
you're going to have those issues.
Drew, what do you think the issue is? That's a good thought process. You got anything to add, Drew?
It's so hard I break down a lot of college players' film, and you could kind of tell with quarterbacks where they're going, and they're in the pocket, what the problem is, what the flaws are, reading the defense. Are they moving up in the pocket? Are they mobile enough? Are they, they're not processing information fast enough? With Cousins, it's like, I'm serious, guys. I watch a drive and I go, that is the worst thing I've ever seen from a quarterback.
But then
and then I watch the end of the game and the clutch and the drop back and the throw to Osborne. I'm thinking, that's Favre, Montana, and Tarkin all wrapped into one.
Yes.
So how am I going to break it? I told Toon says, how do I break this down? It's an enigma wrapped around a mystery to me. And I watch a lot of tape. I watch a lot of college and pro tape. Why doesn't he play like that the whole game? I don't get it, because he was money at the end. And you notice his confidence hasn't been that good since Philly. His confidence wasn't good today. I don't know what it is. He's shaky. He's shaky back there. But that last drive, when everybody thinks Cousins isn't clutch, he looked confident, he looked poised, and he laid that ball in there, just like he laid that one to Irv Smith that he dropped. What a beautiful pass that was. One of the best passes I've seen all season.
Yes.
He laid that thing in there. You couldn't have ran down and handed that fucking ball to him any better than that. But I just wish we had it all the time, because sometimes he seems so jittery, so skittish, so on edge where he can't get it done.
I want to come back to Kirk in a second, but before I forget, I want to talk about Irv Smith, because there was a point in the game. The Vikings had the ball. They were just on the other side of the Detroit 50.
Right.
Kirk threw a ball.
Beautiful.
Right to Irv Smith.
Beautiful loft pass.
If he catches it, it's 1st and 10 on about the 23 or 24. Irv dropped it. The Vikings ended up they couldn't do anything else, and that turned into one of Greg Joseph's long missed field goals that gave the Lions a short field, and they went down and they scored. And I'm almost done with Irv Smith. I'm all about Johnny Munt being tight end number 1 and Ben Ellison being tight end number 2 and Irv Smith being tight end number 3 until Irv Smith proves he cannot drop a football when it matters.
I mean,
Can't argue.
We remember all the hype around Irv Smith last year, and then he got hurt and whatnot. And then we kind of rewound all the hype again this year. He just hasn't been that consistent. I mean, Johnny Munt has
Munt's been
better
fantastic.
tight end at this point. He really has. I mean,
Yes,
that was one of those signings that we kind of made fun of a little bit during the offseason. Yeah, the Vikings signed him because he was a Ram and he knew Kevin O'Connell. And, he's actually been pretty damn good so far.
He's been the most sure-handed. He's been the most sure-handed tight end on this roster so far through 3 games.
And I think Toons has brought up a good point during the game. He caught one on the sidelines. Chris, and he kind of spun and he ran upfield to try to get as much as he could out of the thing.
Yes.
And I was watching it, and Toons just said, "That's what we need out of a tight end." Yes. That puts him ahead of her. Toons has a lot of knowledge, guys. She sits behind the scenes, but Toons knows football. She knows football, and I got to give her credit because she pointed that out. That Munt is making him. He looked really good today.
Johnny Munt is a guy that doesn't try to do more than he knows he's capable of doing. And what he is capable of doing is good enough in the situation 9 times out of 10. He gets the ball, turns up field, and gets as many yards as he can. And that, like you said, like Toons has said, that is what the Vikings need from a tight end. And Irv, and when you throw the ball to him, he catches it, which is like a huge deal for a guy that catches passes. That's just all I'm saying.
And it's weird because this is Irv Smith's contract year. I mean, he was supposed to be playing himself into a big paycheck for next season.
It's all up here now with him.
It's got to be. I mean,
it's a mental thing now after that one. And I want to point out so people can hear this on this show. I watch a lot of quarterbacks throwing passes. That on a scale of 1 to 10, that's a 9.75 for difficulty. It looks easy when you're watching it at home. He's in the pocket and he throws it. That is an extremely hard pass to complete, Ted. That is a really hard pass because you got to get the touch, you got to get the loft, you got to get it over the defender. That might be the best pass I've ever seen Cousins throw. That's how much I mean about it.
Or that pass that Irv dropped on Monday night in Philly on the sideline. I mean, look. Yeah, so let's bring this back to the Kirk Cousins argument because
the only reason I bring it up is people will say, well, he dropped the ball. As much as Kirk had a bad game, and he did have a bad game, that pass, that is what the hardest pass to complete probably. That is extremely difficult to complete. Yeah. So people need to know that was difficult, and he laid it right in there, and the guy dropped it, but it looks like an incompletion on his stat sheet. So
and more often than not, Kirk puts the ball in a spot where only the receiver can catch it. I mean, like the guy may be covered. The guy may be covered. But look, I mean, in the NFL, your windows for completing passes are very, very small compared to a lot of college games. And like there's only so much Kirk can do in situations like that. And when he gets you the ball, you have got to make those catches because 1st and 10 on the 22 is a hell of a lot different than 2nd and 10, which becomes 3rd and long, and then a missed 56-yard field goal.
And I want to give a shout out. I know Irv Smith Sr. watches this show. He watches all of our studio shows. He's a big fan of Vikings Report. He is. And I think he would even agree that we're not ripping on Irv. We need him to get through this.
I don't think it's unreasonable.
No.
To expect a tight end to catch a ball when it's thrown to him. Now, if a ball's not catchable, that's one thing. But there have been a couple that you couldn't have placed the ball in Irv's hands any better than if you would have handed the ball off in the backfield.
Man, that was a beautiful pass.
You've got to catch those passes, and that's the difference between a lot of times winning and losing the football game. With the Vikings, if Irv catches that pass in Philly last week, do the Vikings win? I don't know. It was an off night, but sometimes a big play can shake a team out of its doldrums and shift momentum, as we've seen so many times in the NFL.
That's so well said.
And when a play like that happens and it doesn't execute, you can take that we're kind of in the doldrums and just drop it even a little bit more and make it even harder to get out of those doldrums or funk or whatever the word is you want to use and get the team going.
And he had that beautiful catch in I think the first half. He had that really great catch on the sidelines.
Yeah.
That was a really, really nice catch by Irv Smith. But
you're
right, Ted. You're right. You got to catch those.
So let's roll this back to Kirk. I wanted to say before we got into the Irv Smith discussion, for those of you that think Kirk Cousins sucks, and for those of you that think Kirk Cousins is great, you're both right. You're both right. I mean, and I think that we saw that today.
Usually in the same game.
Yes,
that is so well said, man. I can't figure the guy out. I can't.
There are times when Kirk Cousins looks like he has no business being on an NFL roster.
Right.
And then there are times like the end of the game today where Kirk looks like he's a first ballot Hall of Famer. And we said at the beginning of the year, Drew, Chris, you said this as well. Toonces has said this as well. Kirk has no excuses this year. He has a head coach that's a offensive-minded former offensive coordinator, giving him a system that is very quarterback friendly and plays to many of the strengths that Kirk Cousins has. He has Justin Jefferson, KJ Osborne, and Adam Thielen. And I would argue you'd be hard pressed to find a better wide receiver trio in the NFL.
Right.
Had Dalvin Cook till midway through the third quarter. I'm not sure what the injury is on Cook, but he still has competent running backs in Alexander Madison, Kene Nwangwu, and Ty Chandler. If we get to that point, there is no reason that you have no reasons. And by the way, the most important part, the offensive line looks good. Brian O'Neill and Christian Darrisaw absolutely stonewalled Aiden Hutchinson today. I saw Aiden Hutchinson's name called one time, and he even missed a tackle on that.
Don't hate because he's on mission.
Yeah,
am I wrong?
According to the game stats, Hutchinson doesn't even appear in the stat column today.
Huh?
No tackles, no assists,
no
nothing.
Good. I'm done with him.
I don't say that to hate on your Michigan boy, Drew. But
he's not. No way. He's not my boy anymore.
But the Vikings,
like Paulie said that to Henry Hill, I'd turn my back on you now.
but the Vikings offensive line, I think, is downright respectable. Kirk only got sacked one time today. Yep. He had a lot of time to throw the ball. There are no excuses. You cannot come up with any excuse for Kirk Cousins this year. And there were times today where it looked like he had no business being on a football field. And then at the end of the game, he looks like a magician.
That's not good enough, though, Ted. That's 62-62. That's not good enough. You got to be better than that to win the Super Bowl.
I agree.
You can't be shitty and then good and then shitty and then good. I mean, you got to be. I don't know. It's really frustrating to watch because that last drive he was money. But there's other drives when he is under pressure and he gets sacked and people say, "Oh, the O-line sucks." Well, he had 8 seconds. He had a bunch of time to throw. So if you're going to blame the O-line, I think that's unfair.
For those of us that think Kirk Cousins was a magician at the end, there are those of us that think Kirk Cousins absolutely pissed away that second to last drive too, where they had to turn the ball over on downs.
That's right.
We saw Thielen screaming for illegal contact, which I think a case could be made. But at that point, you got to let him play the game.
You got to be better more than 50% of the time. Chris, what do you think?
No, absolutely. I totally agree. I mean, like Ted said, there are times where I don't know what the hell Kirk Cousins is doing. He doesn't look like he has any business being out there. And then you see drives like this last drive and, most of the first half against Green Bay. And, he looks like the guy that you're going to pay a bunch of money for. And, for as good as Jared Goff looked for most of the day and as bad as Kirk Cousins looked for most of the day, their stat lines wound up being basically identical. Goff was 25 out of 41 for 277, touchdown to pick. Cousins was 24 for 41 for 260 in the two scores. So, I mean, they wound up being basically identical, even though one of them looked much better over the course of the afternoon than the other one did.
Can you guys talk about the defense a little? Sorry, Ted.
No, that's what I was going to bring up. We said at the beginning of this season, Zadarius Smith and Daniil Hunter were going to put relentless pressure on the on the opponents of the Minnesota Vikings.
Didn't get home enough today. Didn't get home.
I would argue right now, Mike Zimmer was able to bring more pressure with freaking DJ Wanham, and whoever else they had rushing last year.
Not going to argue. Not going to argue that.
I'm not seeing it. I'm not seeing it from Smith or Hunter yet this year. And I'm not sure what the deal is with Ed Donatel, but this cover 4 shell zone, whatever the hell it is they're playing, is like a prevent defense starting in the first quarter. And I'm sorry, that's a terrible philosophy in my humble opinion.
More open than Lindsay Lohan on the weekend.
And like we said last week against Philadelphia, this isn't Ed Donatel's first time doing this.
Right.
I mean, he's got to take a look at this defense and say, you know what I'm doing isn't working. I got to do something different. And for the last 2 weeks, he really hasn't done anything different.
But Chris, is he scared? What is the deal about Donatel? I noticed you get a guy set up in the slot. Detroit did this like 4 times today. And they run the slot guy, they run him in a stick route. And a stick route, for all those I don't want to get off in the weeds about it, but a stick route is you run down 8 yards and you turn around and catch it. And they did that like 6 times, and the guy's wide open. And I'm thinking, you got to stop. At least if you're not going to stop the stick route, then you're not going to stop anything. So it seems, are they too tentative? Are they too back on their heels? What is the problem with the defense?
They're not blitzing. They don't.
No.
I don't know if Donatel thinks he can just generate pressure from 3 or 4 guys.
No pressure on Goff today. None.
The only time I think they brought a guy, and I'd have to go back and watch them, and I could be wrong on this. Correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. Was the last play of the game where they brought somebody. Goff got pressured, had to throw off his back foot, airmailed it, and Josh Metellus picked it off and won the game.
Right.
There was one play earlier in the game where I think they sent Kendricks in after him and got Goff on the move a little bit, and it wound up being another incompletion. But you're right. He's not doing it. He's not, and I don't know why.
I don't like
too many sustained drives, Ted.
Yeah, it feels.
I want to see some 3 and outs. I want to see some 3 and outs on defense. Come on.
And it feels like Ed Donatel is okay with bend but don't break. And okay, that's fine, but right now it's bend and then break. The defense really isn't stopping anybody. I mean, it's frustrating to see, and like how many 3rd and 4th down conversions the Lions have today. And it was that way in Philadelphia last week. So through 2 games, the Vikings defense is unable to get off the field. And I don't know if Donatel thinks, 4th and 1 means we've stopped them. Look, you're telegraphing the fact that you cannot stop an opposing offense on short yardage situations. So whether it's 3rd and 2 or 4th and 2, teams are going to take their shots until you prove that you can't stop them. Right. And the Vikings right now, their run defense is terrible. I think the Lions averaged another 4.5 yards per carry again today.
How about
and you can't sustain winning football when you have a defense that gives up that many yards per carry. You just can't.
How about 5 minutes left in the game? Everybody in the stadium, everybody on the planet Earth knows they're running the ball.
Yeah.
And you give up a 5-yard play and then a 19-yard play, and it's like, God damn it, get 11 guys at the line. They're not going to pass it. And it's like, we're here at home going, come on, it's simple. It's 101 football. Stop the run. At times you got to stop the run.
The Lions ran 35 times for 139 yards today.
Didn't seem like that much.
It
kind of did, though.
It just, and that was with DeAndre Swift.
Right.
I don't think he got the most carries out of for the Lions today.
No, Jamal Williams had 20. Swift only carried the ball 7 times.
Yeah.
Really?
So, yeah.
Yep.
Oh, I didn't know that. I did not know
Williams had 20 for 87 and 2 touchdowns.
What do you guys think about the run D today? Compared, it was pretty bad the first 2 weeks.
I thought it was terrible.
It was. I mean, I remember seeing someone say it somewhere. You can tell the difference between when Harrison Phillips and Dalvin Tomlinson are in the game versus when Jonathan Bullard and James Lynch are in there instead. Because Bullard and Lynch are just out there getting killed. And, when Tomlinson and Phillips are out there, even if they're blocked, they can generally kind of make something happen. But Bullard and Lynch are just getting whooped out there.
What do they do at this point?
You got who you got at this point. I mean,
Right.
Jerry Ball's not coming through that door. So, hang. What are you going to do?
Hank Thomas?
No.
Henry Thomas? Nobody ran on that guy. Nobody ran on that guy.
Well, everybody runs on the Vikings now. I mean, it's a thing.
Yeah,
it's a thing. What did I say on our preview show? I said first time was an anomaly, second time was a coincidence, third time is proof. And for 3 straight weeks, the Vikings defense have been unable to stop an opposing offense.
What's up with Tomlinson? I thought he was going to be better than what he is. He hasn't really done much. He's not really much.
Yeah, I don't know if he's more of a nose that they have playing on the end, because I know they have Harrison Phillips at the nose, or I don't know if he just is out of position or what it is. But yeah, I thought he was going to be much better than he has been.
So Ted, how do we break it down? The Lions averaged 35.5 a game. We held them to 24. Is that right?
Yeah, that's true. They did.
Yep.
And then,
and
so
when
how do we look at this game?
They held them to 24, and when the Vikings defense absolutely needed a stop, they got them. I mean, so we can look at it positively that way.
Harrison Smith too. I mean,
without Harrison Smith, yeah. I mean, you could argue that they shouldn't have gotten down 24-14 to begin with.
Right. That was the one thing I was thinking of. This team gives up 33 points a game. 33 the Lions give up.
Yeah.
And we're at 14. Why the hell are we at 14?
Yeah. They only had 14, midway through the third quarter.
Ridiculous.
DeAndre Swift and Amon-Ra St. Brown were pretty much non-factors, and the Vikings were down 10 points. I mean, it just
yeah.
Yet the Minnesota Vikings are 2-1.
They found a way to win, Ted.
They are.
They figured it out. So
they found a way to win.
And we said this all last year when the Vikings weren't very good. We said good teams find a way to win, and bad teams find a way to lose. The Vikings found a way to win, and I'll tell you what, it may have been ugly, and you may walk out of this thinking the Vikings don't deserve to be 2-1, but by God, they're 2-1. So
yeah,
that's a great way to put it right there.
Deserves has nothing to do with it, man.
I'd rather be an undeserving 2-1 than a deserving 1-2.
Absolutely.
So whatever.
Good way to put it, Ted Glover.
Look, I mean, the NFL's a weird game. You win games you shouldn't, and you lose games you shouldn't. And you could argue the Vikings had no business winning this game until they won.
They didn't. If there's anybody from the Lions organization watching this or any fans, your coach lost the game for you. And all I can do is laugh because it's funny. Because it's Lions. You guys blew this game. You had it. You blew it.
And as Valhalla Sports Talk mentions in the comments, not only are there Vikings 2-1, but they're 2 division wins too, which are huge.
That's a good,
huge.
Yep. Great point. Great point.
And I'll tell you what, I'd rather be 2-1 heading to England next week than 1-2 heading to England next week playing the Saints.
I have to give you a meow on that one, Ted.
So yeah. Anyways,
they found a way to get it done.
So let's bring Toonces in here for a minute. Toonces, are you almost ready to spin the wheel of Toonces' destiny?
I am ready.
All right. So I'll tell you what, we've still got over 150 people in the chat.
Yeah.
If you made a comment, you're eligible to enter, and you've been entered to win the prize. So go ahead, Toonces, go ahead, spin the wheel, and let's see who this week's VR prize vault winner is.
Where's the sound? I like the sound.
Oh, well.
Is that Mac?
G-Mac 72. Congratulations.
The great G-Mac, who's been
a
supporter of the show from the beginning, Ted.
G-Mac, you know the drill. You're a past prize winner. Hit up Ruby at Vikings Report with Drew and Ted at gmail.com. and she'll send you a link to click to choose from our prize vault.
Good job, Mac.
Again, thanks so much, everybody, for joining us. Again, if you want to like and subscribe to the show, we'd really appreciate it. Once again, we had a whole bunch of people watching. If you like what you see, go to VikingsReport.com. From there, you've got links to our YouTube page, our social media stuff, our Zazzle page where you can buy some coffee mugs that Drew's been showing throughout the show. Another link to purplepainforums.com. We're kind of we're affiliated with them. They're our official message board. We're their official podcast. It's a great community. Go talk football over there and a whole bunch of other stuff. We're going at this about an hour. We should probably think about wrapping it up. Chris, what are your thoughts heading into next week for the early game across the pond, as it were?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. The Saints are a different team from what we've seen over the course of the past few weeks, and there's always the factor of traveling all the way across the Atlantic. So, we're going to see what happens. But like you said, the Vikings might not deserve to be where they are right now, but that's where they are right now, and I'm kind of happy with it after what we watched this afternoon, to be honest.
Drew, what do you think?
First off, London games are dumb. The whole thing's dumb.
Yeah, I'm with you there.
Come on, dumb. Keep all the games over here. It's ridiculous. The Vikings are going to have to deal with flying over there and getting it done. But
old man yells at cloud.
It's dumb, Ted. The whole thing is dumb.
I agree.
Going to London,
I agree.
Germany, whatever. Just come on. I hope the Vikings can harness the energy and to get that game going. And I actually think with O'Connell, this is going to be a blessing in disguise, being out of the country. I think he's going to be a little bit looser with coaching, hopefully offensively. I don't know what the deal is, but this is a big game. This winning today was big, huge. If they lose this game today, we're all on here going, you know what? Maybe O'Connell isn't the guy. So let's see what happens over in, where is it, London? Where are they having it? Tokyo?
I think so.
Yeah.
Whatever.
It's in London.
Dumb. Let's get the win.
Chris?
Just a couple more things from today's game. Congratulations to Adam Thielen, now tied for fourth all-time in Vikings history in touchdown receptions. He caught number 50 today. That ties him with Sammy White. He's 2 behind Anthony Carter for third place. He's not catching the top 2 guys, but he can get to number 3. And that was a lot of fun to watch. Again, some of it was fun to watch. The part at the end was fun.
Yeah.
Look,
like I said, good teams find ways to win when they're not good. And today the Vikings were not good for about 50 to 55 minutes of game time, and they still figured it out. We'll have to wait and see what the injury is to Dalvin Cook. We'll have to wait and see on a couple other things. Lewis Seen not playing was kind of bothersome. I hope we kind of figure out what's going on with him.
Did he not play?
I saw early in the second quarter he didn't have his helmet. I don't know if
what is wrong with that guy.
I don't know if he got hurt on a kickoff return or something because he played special teams.
He was out there on special teams. I don't think I saw him on defense. So I'll have to take a look at the snap counts when they come out.
Oh, so anyways, Vikings moved to 2-1. Which
can I add one thing?
Yep.
As my great Uncle Paulie says, a win is a win. Even if it's hanging off the ass of a cow.
That's right.
Take the win, baby. Take the win, people. Take it.
It's better to be 2-1 and kind of irritated with how they played for most of the day than being 1-2 and even really irritated that you weren't happy with the way they played and that they lost. There you go. So Vikings moved to 2-1 on the year. Drew and I will be back Friday at 10, and then we will be back early Sunday as soon as the Vikings with Chris, as soon as the Vikings are done playing the Saints about noon Central Time.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, what?
Yeah, the game starts at like 8:30 in the morning, man.
Dude,
that's like 6:30 your time. You won't even have your first cup of coffee by the time the Vikings get to halftime, dude.
So you're saying You're saying Drew might not be with us next week?
No, I'll be here. Even if I have to call my buddy, I'll be here. I'll be wired up and ready to rock.
All right. So Vikings win, move to 2-1. Great comeback at the very end. Still got a long ways to go to get to where we want them to be, but a win is better than a loss. For Drew, for Chris, for Ruby, who put this whole thing together, I can't thank you enough, Ruby, for being as awesome as you are and doing all this production and engineer type stuff. Thanks so much.